Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Wilson, the founder and CEO of Starts at 60, the online home of the Aussie baby boomer. Here at Starts at 60, we're dedicated to bringing over 60s the latest health, money, property, lifestyle, and entertainment news, marketplace essentials, and great travel deals and discounts for members. If you haven't already checked out our website, please do so by visiting startsat60.com. I'm joined today, though, by Professor Dorothy Bruck, who is going to share some valuable information about a really important part of everyone's lives, our sleep. Dorothy specialises as a sleep psychologist. She's one of the founding directors of the Sleep Health Foundation and has an extensive research record in sleep and wake behaviour. With an international research reputation, Dorothy has over 100 peer-reviewed publications, 2,000 citations, won numerous awards and prizes, and her research has been regularly featured in the media, including Time Magazine and New Scientist. Welcome, Dot.
Hi, Beck. It's great to be here. And I'm really looking forward to talking to all your viewers about good and poor sleep and maybe clear up any confusions about what actually will help you get a good night's sleep.
I can't wait to get us started. Thank you for joining us. I'd also like to stop now and say a quick thank you to our sponsor of today, Melatonin MR, who has made this video possible. We all know that that sleep patterns change through our lives, and we're really here to correlate that conversation with the news that Melatonin MR, an effective melatonin product, which was previously prescription only, is now available without a prescription for over 55s at their pharmacist. So you can ask your pharmacist about Melatonin MR, available over the counter, or speak to your GP. So Dot, let's jump straight into today's conversation. Research tells us that 4 out of 10 Australians often get inadequate sleep. How does this affect us on a day-to-day basis?
Well, there are 2 main ways that it affects us on a day-to-day basis. The first is emotional. And I'm sure you've heard the saying that somebody has got out of the bed on the wrong side. And this sort of means that we know that mood and sleep have some sort of relationship. We understand that. So if you've had a bad night's sleep, sometimes you'll find yourself a bit more emotional than you otherwise might be, irritable, grumpy, and sometimes sad too. We know that poor sleep, ongoing poor sleep, can make people a bit more prone to be depressed and feeling down in the dumps. So emotional well-being is certainly affected by how well or how badly we sleep. But the other interesting area is how well we can attend to things, how well we can concentrate. And your viewers might have noticed this when they're driving. Sometimes if you've had especially a couple of bad nights sleep, your attention really wanders, your eyes go in and out of focus very easily, and it can be a real problem. And we notice it affects our memory as well. I know as we get older, we all have a little bit more trouble with our memory, me included, but after you've had some poor night's sleep, you do have more trouble remembering things and retrieving things from your memory banks.
Yeah, wow. Are there any more long-term risks if you've got poor sleep in an ongoing manner?
Sure. Unfortunately, that is the case. We know that poor sleep interferes with our glucose metabolism, and so diabetes is an increased risk if you've got ongoing poor sleep. We also know that cardiovascular problems are increased probability with ongoing poor sleep. We're not just talking about the occasional night here. Everybody has some nights of poor sleep, but if it's ongoing poor sleep is associated with diabetes and cardiovascular problems. But another one that a lot of people don't realise is that there's an association between poor sleep and obesity. And poor sleep can interfere with the way our hormones affect how hungry we feel and how full we feel. So if you've had ongoing nights of poor sleep, you don't have those same signals to tell you when to stop eating or to tell you that it's not actually yet lunchtime. And so this can mean that people overeat and can lead to obesity as well.
Yeah, wow. A lot of people in our community suffer from poor sleep. So I think it's very helpful for everyone to really hear your expertise today. Does waking up during the night indicate a sleep problem, or what does a sleep problem really look like?
Well, sleep problems can take a number of different forms, but waking up in the night is actually not that unusual. And what people don't realize is that we don't just go to sleep and stay asleep all night and then wake up in the morning. That's not the way sleep works. Sleep is actually a whole series of cycles that go across the night. And each cycle lasts about an hour and a half. And the first couple of cycles are associated with us going into deep sleep. And after about an hour and a half, we come up into lighter sleep, a little bit of dream sleep, go back down into deep sleep, come up again into that lighter sleep. And then in the second half of the night, we find people are in a much lighter sleep generally than in the first half of the night. And that's when they might be doing some more dreaming and so forth. And in that second part of the night, it's very likely, in fact, all of us do wake up for periods of time. Sometimes it might only be 15 or 30 seconds. And so in the morning, you don't even realize that you've woken up. But sometimes it's an extended period of time. And I'm sure that many of your viewers will know about that, waking up, looking at the clock, thinking, oh my God, it's 3:15 in the morning. How am I going to get back to sleep again? But it's really important to realize that it's actually really normal to wake up. And the key is to have those skills so you can get back to sleep again fairly quickly. And we talk about self-soothing skills, which I might go into a little bit later. But it's important that people realize that waking up doesn't indicate that you've got a sleep problem. It's a normal thing to do. And the more relaxed you can be about it, the better. So what we really want is for people to think about, well, how can I create the right conditions to go back to sleep again? And that conditions sort of not just in your bedroom and being comfortable, but also in your mind. How can you create that more relaxed feeling in your mind to go back to sleep again?
It can be very stressful when you can't get back to sleep and you're lying awake thinking about it, can't it?
Very frustrating, yes.
So if you're often tired in the evening, is the best advice to go to bed earlier?
No, that's actually the worst advice. The ideal thing is to think about how much sleep you need. And we know that adults normally need somewhere between 7 and 9 hours of sleep. So for most people, it might be around 8 hours. So if you only need 8 hours of sleep, then it's best to just spend that amount of time in bed. So it might be from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. in the morning. So that should be the time that you actually go to bed and not longer. So the time in bed equals your sleep need. Now, if you go to bed too early, you're reducing your pressure to go to sleep. So if you go to bed, say at 9 p.m. instead of 11 p.m., you're telling your body that it can spread the 8 hours of sleep that you need over, let's say, from 9 till 7 is how long? About 10 hours. And then you won't consolidate your sleep. You will have even longer periods of being awake, longer periods of being frustrated, and it's not helpful. So it's much better to have a much more consolidated sleep. So often the best advice for people if they're waking up for long periods of the night, and it's a bit counterintuitive, but it's to say to go to bed a bit later, maybe 1 or 2 hours later, depending on when you're normally going to bed. Even for a few nights, that can give you a bit more sleep pressure, consolidate your sleep a bit more, and then you can go back to.
That's a very helpful bit of advice. People often ask as well when they're talking about their sleep whether they should be having naps. Are they good or bad?
Well, if you've got a healthy, if you're healthy and you have reasonable sleep, then you shouldn't really need to have a nap in the middle of the day. Having said that, sometimes a nap can be a really delicious thing to have. It's a really nice, indulgent thing to have, especially if the best time to have a nap is actually just after lunch, if you're going to have a nap. But it's really important, Beck, that people only have a short nap, and we say about 20 minutes. So set your alarm whatever, for about 20, 25 minutes. Let yourself have a short nap and then wake up. If you have a longer nap, you're going to go into deep sleep, and it means that it's going to affect how well or badly you sleep that night. It's going to reduce your sleep pressure. So it's better to have a short nap. And it's also really important not to have it too late in the day. So after lunch, we sort of have a natural, what we call a circadian dip, a bit of a post-lunch dip. Even if you don't actually eat, you still have a bit of a post-lunch dip. We feel a bit sleepier after lunch. That's the time to have the short nap, and not in front of the TV at night. Now, I'm one of these people that sometimes does fall asleep in front of the TV at night. So I speak from experience, but it's actually the wrong thing to do, because it takes the pressure off, the sleep pressure that you need when you do go to bed to help you fall asleep and then to stay asleep all night. So even a short nap in front of the telly can be a disadvantage for getting a good night's sleep. So it's important not to do that if you at all can.
Really helpful to understand. Snoring, the big topic around sleep that everybody loves to talk about. Is regular snoring normal?
Well, snoring is one to deny as well. Look, a little bit of snoring can be quite normal, especially as you get older, and especially if you're carrying a little bit of extra weight, you are more prone to snore, because when we put on weight, we actually put on weight in the fatty tissue in our airways. So sometimes even just losing a bit of weight can help you move from being a snorer to a non-snorer. But what we really worry about is regular loud snoring, or snoring where the person is gasping a little bit. And the classic thing is you hear them breathe, and then you hear them not breathe anymore, and then after maybe 30 to 60 seconds they'll sort of have a bit of a snort, and they'll sort of go up into light sleep, and they need to go into light sleep in order to start breathing again. And if you suspect that you have this sort of problem, or you hear your partner having this sort of problem, it indicates the possibility of sleep apnea, where people really should go to their GP, have a sleep test, get it sorted out. It can be very well treated. And the other thing about sleep apnea, why it shouldn't be ignored, is it's also associated with a higher risk of cardiovascular disease, as well as dementia, unfortunately, which we all don't want to have anything to do with if we can. Yes, so not to ignore sleep apnea is a key message.
Yeah, wow. Can I ask what causes? Let's get to the big pinnacle of how the biggest question you can answer for us today.
Well, there can be very many causes of poor sleep. If you look at it from the point of view, what is it that's causing you to take a long time to fall asleep? It could be that you're going to bed too early. It could be that you're going to bed when you're not sleepy. Sometimes people are tired, but they're not actually ready to fall asleep. It could be that they've been doing too many stimulating activities right up until their bedtime, and they haven't created a bit of a buffer zone between being active and stimulated, maybe doing work or having playing games on the computer, or having emotional discussions with a family member or something, doing something that might be a little bit stimulating, even upsetting, and then going to bed. What we really need is a 1 hour buffer zone. If you're having trouble falling asleep, where you spend a lot of time winding down. So you're doing relaxing things, maybe a warm shower can be very helpful, just looking at magazines, having chats to other members of the family, nothing emotional. These are all things that are important for helping to go off to sleep. And also to have a routine time. So your body expects, okay, 11 o'clock, that's when I'm going to bed. I've had this buffer zone, and now my body's expecting me to go to sleep. Of course, caffeine, no caffeine that is going to affect you. Caffeine's quite interesting, Beck, because some people are much more affected by it than others. And some people say, I can still have caffeine at 4 o'clock and I'm not affected. But most people are affected by caffeine in the afternoon. And some people don't even realise what effect it actually has. So caffeine's one to really watch out of.
I've well and truly written it off after 3 p.m. for myself.
Well, I can't have it at all. I actually found that even if I have a Diet Coke in the middle of the day, I can't get to sleep at night. So I'm very sensitive to it. But then, Beck, when we talk about poor sleep, the other thing, the big thing often, particularly for people who are a bit older, is waking up in the night and then not being able to go back to sleep. And we know that that can be a really big thing. So sometimes people take their worries to bed, and then when they wake up in the middle of the night, they worry about things, even things that they can't change, which, rationally doesn't seem sensible, but we've all been to that point where we do worry about things we can't change. So, it's good to put that out of your mind. I've even found when I've worked with people with poor sleep is that if they keep a worry journal, so sometime during the day, maybe, in the late afternoon, early evening, they think about all their worries, they write them down, they think about what they could do, what are the options to do about particular worries. Sometimes there isn't anything they can do, worry about that the next day. Anyway, write it all down, close the book, and then at night at 3:15 in the morning, when you're feeling like you want to have a bit of a worry, you think, this is not the right time to worry. I've got my worry journal time, and that's when I'm going to worry about these things. This time is when I need to self-soothe, okay? So we know about soothing babies, but it's important that people learn how to self-soothe themselves. So it means having neutral thoughts, okay? Thinking about your last holiday, if it was nice, your next holiday, and how nice that's going to be. Or thinking about your garden and what are the beautiful things in flower in the park or your garden or whatever. So lots of nice sort of neutral thoughts. And if you start finding that some of those, what I call hot thoughts, things that you worry about, come in, to gently move them aside and say, I'm not going to worry about that. And definitely not worry about the fact that you're awake in the middle of the night. That's a real no-no, because that can just create a cycle of worrying about sleep and on and on and on. The
other one's alcohol, isn't it?
The other one is alcohol. And people sometimes think that alcohol is going to help them get off to sleep. And it might help you get off to sleep initially, but then it's going to cause fragmented sleep in the middle of the night, especially if you've had more than 1 or 2 glasses. It's going to fragment your sleep in the second half of the night. So alcohol is to be avoided. If you're into any sort of binge drinking, then that can affect your sleep for 3, 4, 5 nights on an ongoing basis. So that's definitely not what to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you've got the hormonal stuff. So take us there and explain that.
The big hormonal thing with sleep is the hormone called melatonin. And we know that as people get older, their amplitude of their melatonin secretion at night will decrease. So what happens when we go off to during the evening, actually, in fact, our melatonin levels rise, and melatonin is something that won't come out in the middle of the day in the light. I call it the essence of darkness. So you only see it when the lights are a bit dim, when there's indoor lighting rather than outdoor lighting levels. Melatonin will rise in the evening, and it will reach its peak a few hours after you've fallen asleep, and then it will decrease. And then when you wake up in the morning, open your curtains, the melatonin will completely go to zero. But as you get older, the over 55s, over 60s, your melatonin amplitude can decrease, and it means that it's not going to be as efficient as it was when you were younger. So that can be a problem with older people.
Yeah, wow. How does sleep change with age? Can you talk us through all of the things that happen?
Some of the key things. The main thing, I think, is that once you reach young adulthood, you have a sort of a set sleep need, which might be somewhere between 7 and 9 hours. And that doesn't really change as you get older. It might decrease just a little bit, but the actual sleep need doesn't change.
So I can tell my teenagers this when they're getting 15 hours?
Teenagers are a completely different kettle of fish, as I'm sure all your viewers know. Teenagers often sleep in very erratic ways. So I'm not sure that we want to go down there. Because,
we don't need to go there today. We're here for the over 60s today.
Yeah, they're really a story of their own. But as we get older, our sleep does get less efficient. Okay, so there can be many reasons for that. It could be something to do with some medication that you might be on, or it could be the less efficiency shows itself in fragmented sleep. It could be pain. That was the other big thing I was thinking about. Pain can be a big one for older people to not get the most efficient sleep that they should. But it also means that we get less deep sleep. So that deep sleep that we have in the first 3 hours is not as deep as it should. And the second half of the night is more fragmented. And it's part of that comes back to this lower melatonin level. So if you just bear with me, and I'll just talk a little bit more about melatonin, because it's actually a very interesting and important hormone, a sleep hormone.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by it. Take us through the hormone melatonin and what it does with sleep quality.
Well, it's got two particular functions. The first one is that it regulates our body clock. So it keeps our body clock on a regular routine. And if any of your viewers have ever traveled internationally, obviously not recently, but internationally, they will know about jet lag. And we know that melatonin can be very helpful in realigning people. That is, taking melatonin can be very helpful in realigning people back to their normal body clock, the normal body clock of London or wherever they are. But the other thing that that melatonin does, it does have a mild sleep-inducing effect. So it helps us go off to sleep. So in some cases, for older adults where they're having poor sleep, but there doesn't seem to be an obvious reason for the poor sleep, it is possible that it might be to do with lower melatonin levels. And in those cases, taking supplements of melatonin can actually be helpful. It's best to talk to their GP about that, or their pharmacist about whether that sort of supplement of melatonin is going to be helpful for their particular type of sleep problem.
Especially now that you can get it over the counter. I think that's very helpful for everybody to know that they can ask now in Australia.
Yeah, it's a big change.
Now, any final tips for us on how to improve sleep?
It's good to think about how you sleep in the context of a 24-hour period and what your activities are during the day. And we know that being outside, getting outdoor light is really helpful. And part of that comes back to melatonin again, because being outside suppresses your melatonin levels because you're exposed to nice, bright sunlight. And that's what you want. You want it suppressed during the day so it will rise up at night. A daily walk is known to be absolutely excellent for insomnia. So build in even just a 30-minute outside daily walk is really good advice. The other thing is how people think about their sleep and not to expect perfection. Some of us are a bit perfectionist, and we're easy to get anxious about something if we think our health is not right. The only thing you can do with sleep is create the right sleep conditions, both in your bedroom, but also in your head, by learning self-soothing things. And sometimes these apps are very important or useful, like relaxation apps or mindfulness apps. You can't force sleep. You can't force yourself to go to sleep. It's a bit like eating a biscuit. If I ask you to eat a biscuit and then digest it faster, you would think I was a bit crazy, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You can't digest a biscuit faster, and you can't force yourself to go to sleep. So they would be a couple of points that I would think are particularly important.
How about sleep trackers? Have you ever seen a lot of benefit from them?
Sleep trackers are interesting because they can help people focus on how much sleep they're getting and help them understand if they've got a sleep problem. But they can also worry people too. They can look at their sleep and say, oh, I don't think it should be, you know, I don't think it's good enough for what it should be, but I feel fine in the morning. I think it's much better, rather than to consult your Fitbit or, you know, whatever your sleep tracker is, about whether you've slept well, is to actually ask yourself, how do I feel in the morning? How do I feel during the day? Do I feel that my sleep is adequate for my needs? And if that's the case, you don't need a sleep tracker to tell you about that. They can actually create a little bit more anxiety. So we don't want to do that. Just one more thing that I wouldn't mind telling you is that the Sleep Health Foundation has a lot of fact sheets. We have over 90 fact sheets about sleep. And that could be a really useful place for some of your viewers to go to. You might even be able to put it on your Facebook page for the Starts at 60. Yeah.
We'll pop a link onto the video for everybody so that they can have a look.
That'd be great.
Yeah, no, I mean, people are so hungry for resources for a good night's sleep. It's such an important essential in life.
Yes, exactly.
Look, I think improving people's sleep has been the goal of today's session, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join us, Dot. Sleep is such a broad and complex topic, and there are many myths and misconceptions surrounding the factors that influence sleep. We're really grateful to be able to demystify it with you. Before we go, it's really important that I remind everybody here that we can only provide general information, and that the information shared today is not personalised to your specific health or personal situations. So if you have any questions or concerns regarding your health, please do get in contact with your GP. Thank you again to Dot and our sponsor, Melatonin MR, for making today's event possible. If you'd also like to learn more about Melatonin MR and the benefits, you can do so by visiting their website, which is also provided on the screen in front of you. A bit hard for me to spell that one out, but it will be provided as a link on the video. And we really hope to see you all again. Thank you very much for coming. And as always, stay safe.